This webinar is going to talk about how to use Presenter View in PowerPoint, including how to use the mobile apps as well. I have a slide deck that I used last week for the webinar that I thought, well, I have it available, so I might as well just use that and showcase that for this webinar here. So I have that in my window right here. This will be a micro webinar, so it'll be short, but I'll linger as long as people would like to stay on the line. So in PowerPoint, you have the slideshow window right here. It has a lot of options. This is the ribbon at the top of the screen. Today we're going to look at this box here, the monitors group right there, and especially Presenter View. As I hover over, it gives me an explanation. Presenter View offers you 2 monitors, and you can have a sneak peek of what's coming up on the next slide, speaker notes, the timer, and more. Now, the thing about this is you do need 2 screens in order to utilize presenter mode. So if you're in a classroom at a kiosk and you have the laptop or the computer set up at the podium and a projector behind you, then that would work. If you have 2 monitors on your computer, or if you're ever hooked up to a projector, then you'll be able to use presenter mode. So you can check that on or off, and then you can determine, where the show is going to take place. I have 2 monitors. My monitors are called primary monitor and monitor 2 with alphanumerics for the, I don't know, make and model or whatever. And so I can choose where do I want those to show up. So now I'm actually going to split my screen. I'm going to show both of my screens now. Waiting for next screen. So I have a left monitor and a right monitor right here. And so I'm going to go ahead and show the primary show on the primary, or I'm going to show the PowerPoint presentation, the main slides on the primary monitor, which is this left one right here, and I'm going to show my notes on the right one. So I'm just going to hit F5. So on the left, I have my main slideshow. That's what is being projected on the projector. And that's what the students are seeing. At the podium, I see a different view. I see this view on the right side. I have various options. Up at the top, I have a timer. I know how long my presentation has been going, and that's essentially since I hit F5 or clicked on the button to present the slideshow. I can pause that timer if I want to. If it's important for me to keep a running time of how long the presentation is going, but we need to take a break or there's a distraction or something, then I can pause that timer. I can also reset the timer. On the right-hand side, I have an actual clock. I'm on East Coast time, so it's 1:04 my time. I can show the taskbar, which if you notice on the left-hand side, the taskbar comes up, and that's if I need to bounce to a different document or something, then I would be able to do that. Display settings at the top here, if I click that, I can swap the presenter view and the slideshow. That would put the slides on the right instead of the left. And I'll go ahead and do that again. I can also duplicate the slideshow, which would make both of my monitors just like this left monitor. So I would be seeing at the podium exactly what the students are seeing, which is what a lot of people do. And an interesting thing, so I have a preview of the next slide coming. Now in this case, it's the same slide number 2, but I have an animation coming up, which is an effect that it's changing objects. And so I can know exactly what's coming up, including if you have various animations. So I'm now on slide 3. I have various animations. I have stuff coming in and stuff going out. And if you're at last week's webinar, then this might look familiar. And you notice below the preview, I also have my notes. And this is my notes from the webinar last week. I can make them larger, which most people probably want to do. If they're too large, then I can scroll down. Otherwise, I can press Control and page down, or Control and arrow up to scroll through those notes. And the size really depends on the monitor that you have. Right now I have a 27-inch monitor, but at the podium, if I'm at school, it might be a much smaller monitor. I can also scroll by using the bar on the right there. There are various options below the main screen. And I'll also mention if the notes are super important, I can adjust this and make it bigger, and I can also make that smaller as well. So you have a little bit of customization that you can do in that aspect. On the left, you have various elements as well. You have a pen and laser tool. So if I click on that, I have the laser pointer, which turns my mouse, instead of an arrow, it just turns it into like a laser pointer that I can shine on the screen. And you can see I'm shining it on the right on the main slide, but you can see on the left-hand slide then it's working as well. There's also a pen tool, highlight tool, arrow options. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit F1. So this is kind of a behind the scene menu, a help menu. And I'm going to walk through, I think, a few shortcuts that I really highlighted. For one, in order to advance a slide or return to the previous slide, if you think of it like an old slideshow carousel where you either go forward or go backward, there are a lot of options. You can press N, like the letter N on the keyboard. You can left click on the mouse. You can press the space bar. The arrows, you can either do right or up, or no, right or down arrow would advance it. Enter, page down. If I have a keyboard in front of me, I typically use left arrow and right arrow, or you can click on the screen anywhere on the screen and it'll advance it as well. If you want to zoom in or zoom out on a slide, that would be plus or minus, or you can, if you know what slide number you want to go to, you can enter the number or type in the number on the keypad and hit enter. So let's go to this slide. I'm going to press plus, and suppose here's the teacher. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and you notice the cursor turned into a hand, and that's because I can move it. Since I'm zoomed in, I can move the slide around. I can zoom in a little bit further, that's about it, and then I can zoom back out. And once I zoom out all the way, then it turns back into, the mouse turns into a cursor. And if I press minus one more time, it actually shows all of the slides all together, like all at once. And then I can jump to another slide. But I recommend don't do that. Don't zoom that far out. Instead, go to presenter view, and there's a button here for showing all slides. And that way the students are still seeing a clean interface over here. And on the back end, I can click and I can jump around to different slides. And I can come back here and come back here. And on the front end, it's very clean. And it actually looks like I know what I'm doing. So those are some shortcuts. If you want to end the slideshow, you can press escape. I think most people know that. B and W are interesting shortcuts. It'll change the screen to black or change the screen to white. So I'm going to start with B, and this is helpful if you have a lot of information on the slide, but you just want to take a break and have people focus on you for a moment. Press B and everything turns black, and press any key and it'll bring it back. Press W and it turns to white. So it just kind of depends. You know, if you're in a really bright room, maybe W would be better. You can press you can press W, go to white. If you're in a dark room, then maybe black would be easier on people's eyes. And you can press that at any time. Let's jump back over here. So a few other interesting shortcuts for us. If you want to hide your mouse or unhide the mouse, it's Control H and Control U. So I'm going to click over there. Now, pay attention to the left monitor now, the primary slides, because I have my cursor. Right now, if you can see it, my cursor is in that blue box. I'm going to press Control H, and that'll hide the cursor. Now press Control U, and it unhides it. Feel free to explore a lot of these other options. There's some that I didn't go into this menu. There's a rehearse, record. If you are recording the slideshow, there's some shortcuts that way. If you have media, which is essentially video or audio, then there are some shortcuts as well. And then the ink and laser pointer, I do want to walk through these. So by default, you have an arrow, which is your cursor is an arrow and you can hover over, but you also have a pen, a highlighter, and an eraser. So Control P is the pen, Control I is the highlighter, which unfortunately it's not Control H. Control H is hide, but you can just think of Control I as the highlighter. Highlighter has two I sounds, highlighter, so Control I for the highlighter. It's the best I can do. I think that's the direction they were going. Control P, Control A, or Control I, Control A, Control E changes it to an eraser. If you've marked up your slide a bit, then you can erase elements. You can also Control M to hide, show and hide the markup, and then E just erases everything. So I know that's a lot to go over. So let's, I'm going to hop over to the left monitor and we'll try some of these things out. I'm going to change it to Control P, and I'm going to, I'm actually going to go to another slide that makes more sense to mark up. So I have a pen right now, and I can draw maybe a box over something. I can highlight another thing. You can do anything. You can draw stuff over on the side if it's important and relevant. You can tell I have an art background. It's amazing. I'm sure you're all very impressed. Hop over to the right monitor. If I click on this, you'll notice I also can change colors. I'm not limited to just one color. I can change that pen to maybe a dark blue and highlight other things that way. So now I'm going to try Control I for the highlighter, and I can highlight portions. This would be probably more appropriate if there's just text on the slide, as a regular highlighter. And again, the highlighter, I can change the ink color. Just hop over to the presenter view here, and I can change that to, I don't know, a different color, perhaps. That didn't really work. Green on blue didn't really work. Maybe dark. Yeah, now it's like I'm crossing it up. So we did Control P to get the pen, Control I to get the highlighter, change it back to the arrow, and then I can interact with it that way. Control E was the eraser, and the eraser works in that you click the mouse button, the left mouse button, and just as you go over things, it starts deleting those things. Control M, and again, press F1, and you'll get the menu, and you can review all of these things. Control M hides the markup, so everything I've drawn is hidden, but I can get back to all of that by pressing Control M. And then if you really want to start over, blank slate, press E, and everything is all gone. If you right click anywhere, I don't recommend right clicking on the main screen, but if you right click anywhere on presenter view, whether it's comments, the slide, you can see the menu. You can get the help menu. I press F1 because it takes me right there. But you can advance, go to previous slides. You can see all slides. You can zoom in. You can change the screen to black or white. All of these options. The ink color is right there. Arrow, you can hide it, unhide it. And so that's just a lot of information. So I think that this is really great. Presenter view makes it so that you can really have more of a professional presence at the front of the classroom, or if you're at a conference, given the presentation where you have all of your notes. You don't have to sift through papers. You can have all of your notes on the PowerPoint. You can read them. You have access to information, access to many things. I want to thank everybody for attending today. Thank you for coming and joining us for this session on how to use presenter mode. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope to see you next time.